Hey guys, today on Watch with Poppy we are talking Supernatural. Have I mentioned that I love Dean Winchester? I do. This is season number 8, episode 10. The episode title is Torn and Frayed. Okay, so as the episode title kind of tells us, this episode is all about the torn and the frayed. And that torn and frayed just runs the gamut throughout this entire episode. We're talking everything from Sam and Dean's relationship being torn and frayed, to Castiel being torn and frayed, to Benny, you know, the vampire who's like on the edge of like snacking on an entire city being torn and frayed. So there's just, like I said, all kinds of torn and frayed everywhere pretty much in this episode. So let's talk about Dean and Sam, because obviously their relationship has been really strained from the beginning of this season, basically. So if you remember from last episode, Sam was already really upset with Dean about Benny. And it was the whole deal of, hey, Benny's a vampire, you need to deal with that. And Sam just really didn't have any kind of understanding for the fact that, you know, Dean had been in purgatory with Benny and like fought with Benny and trusted Benny. And Sam's reaction to Benny seems a little off to me. So I don't know what they're doing with that. Like, if it's not really necessarily about the fact that Benny's a vampire and it's more about the fact that Sam's a little jealous that maybe Dean has found somebody else and doesn't really need Sam anymore, I'm questioning it, because Sam is usually the one who's a little more lenient. You know, Sam's usually the one that kind of shows mercy and would kind of look at the circumstances and say, okay, I get that. But I don't know if they're trying to show us that Sam has changed or what they're trying to show us. But yeah, he's just being really really crazy about the whole Benny thing. But he's really mad at Dean at the beginning of this episode because, of course, Dean sent him off on a wild goose chase, made him think that something had happened to Amelia, and when Sam raced off to go save her, of course, he finds her perfectly fine and safe, and he realizes what Dean has done. But before he can leave town without her realizing that he's there, she sees him. So at the end of the last episode, we see the two of them come face to face, and that is something that Sam was trying to avoid. Of course, the backstory is Sam and Amelia were together. She thought her husband had died in the war, and she and Sam start to build this life together when all of a sudden her husband returns from the war. Turns out he's not dead. So Sam does the honorable thing and leaves and says, you know, give it a chance with your husband, and so that's what she's been trying to do. But Sam shows back up, and it's like, come on, dude. Like, especially when they showed her husband in the last episode, it's like, he's like regular kind of guy, and then you got Sam Winchester. I mean, really, there's a choice there? I don't really think there's much of a choice there. We choose the Winchester every time, people. But she chooses her husband, whatever. But then, of course, in this episode, it was like 2 seconds of talking, and then she comes out of the bathroom with his shirt on. And that was all she was wearing. So you get that they spent a little time getting reacquainted. So it basically comes down to an ultimatum between the two of them, where she basically tells him, look, if you're here, I'm going to choose you. And if you leave, then you need to not come back again, because I've either got to go one way or the other. And then they did this thing that I absolutely hate. She came up with this idea of, look, we'll decide in 2 days, we'll meet back here, and if one of us is here, or the other one, or we're both here, then we'll know. Yeah, I just hate those kind of ultimatums, because it's like, what if somebody gets hit by a car, and then, you know, wasn't there a movie about that? I can't think of the name of it. It's an old movie. But anyway, they make that decision. Meanwhile, Castiel's doing this whole weird flashy thing where he's meeting with this angel named Naomi, and we're not really sure what her whole story is, but we get that she's kind of controlling Castiel. So she's telling him to do things, and then when he kind of gets back into his own kind of body, he doesn't remember her, but he does the things that she tells him to do. So she sends him to go find this angel named Samandriel, or Alfie, as he is called. Turns out that Alfie was captured by Crowley and is being tortured, and they need to basically rescue him before he kind of gives up the goods. So Sam and Dean are fighting, and so they go their separate ways, because that's what they do when they fight. So when Castiel comes kind of looking for help, Dean is there, and so he and Dean go off to try to save Alfie. Meanwhile, you know, Benny's not doing really well. So we kind of see these seeds that they're planting that Benny is on the edge of losing it. So he calls Dean a couple of times, and it's basically like, I'm not in a good place. And Dean promises, hey, when I'm done with my case, I will come to see you. So let's kind of talk about where that goes, because In the end, what happens is Dean doesn't go, and Dean calls him and basically like cuts him off and is like, look, I just want to thank you for everything that you did for me back in purgatory, but I'm going to need to let you kind of go your own way, and I'm going to go my own way. So I felt like a lot of that was pressure from Sam for him to do that, and so he does it. So I'm sure within the second half of the season we're going to see Benny lose it, and we're going to see the Winchesters have to go kind of deal with that, and that should be interesting, I'm sure. In the end, to try to save Alfie, Dean and Castiel have to go see Kevin. Basically, the big kind of aha moment that happens with Alfie is that as Crowley is torturing him, he gives up the fact that there is an angel tablet. So obviously we have this demon tablet where Kevin has half of it and Crowley has the other half, and they're both trying to translate it. And supposedly once it gets translated, it's a way for them to be able to close the door to hell, which would be kind of a good thing, you know, if that happened. But when we find out that there's an angel tablet, I guess we're kind of assuming then that the same is true of that. That if Crowley can find the angel tablet, he can close the door to heaven so that no angels can get out. So when they go see Kevin, they want him to make some more of these kind of demon bomb things that he made before. Castiel goes off to get everything that they're going to need to make these things, and he ends up bringing Sam back with him. And Dean is kind of like, what's he doing here? And sometimes they're just like little girls. It just cracks me up. But in the end, they end up working together, and I think they're even kind of showing you that, like, because when they finally go into the warehouse to get Alfie, the boys have to go in first because they have to get rid of all the, like, angelic ruins so that Castiel can come in. And you just see how well the two of them hunt together. And I think they're kind of trying to show that, look, even if their brotherly relationship is kind of torn and frayed, their hunting relationship is always on point, no matter what. And so they end up getting in and getting Alfie out, but by the time they get him out, it's too late. He's already told Crowley about this angel tablet. And so as Castiel takes him outside to kind of help him, he flashes back into the office of this Naomi lady, the weird angel, who tells him that he needs to kill Alfie. And she gives him all these reasons why he needs to do it, and he does it. But he also starts to have these flashbacks himself in her office, and she's torturing him. So yeah, lots of questions about who she is and what she's doing. I just really want them to kind of get to the point of answering it because I just want Castiel back. You know, we still have weird kind of, you know, Castiel, but I want like badass angel Castiel to be back. And so I just want her to be done because I'm kind of tired of that storyline. At the end of the episode as well, Dean and Sam finally have a talk where they resolve things to some degree, which means not very much at all. And then when it comes down to choosing whether or not he's going to go back to meet Amelia or whether or not he's going to stay and help Dean figure out what's wrong with Castiel. You see her showing up to the hotel room and he's not there. And who was surprised by that? I was not surprised by that at all. I would have been shocked if he had been there. And as the episode ends, you'd kind of see the two of them like eating dinner in front of the TV. But it was kind of just like, it was sad. Like it ended on this really kind of sad note. It's like you get that he stayed. And Sam has always kind of fought against the whole Hunter thing. But all the time it was like this family business and this family calling was sucking him in. And it's like, is he now at the point where he just is kind of giving himself over to it? At one point in this episode, Dean actually says something to him like, you should go to her, like maybe at least one of us should be happy. And it was just kind of like, oh, like I want them both to be happy. But it was just the way it ended was sad because it was like you get that things are still not fully right. So I guess we'll see where they go with that. I'm so super excited because in the preview for next week's episode, it just looks absolutely awesome. First of all, Felicia Day is back as Charlie, and I'm so excited about that alone. They need to make that woman a series regular because she's fantastic. I just loved her episode last season, so I'm really excited that she's back. So it looks like there's something going down at a medieval fair, and the boys have got to figure out what's going on. So I guess we'll see what happens next week. It looks really good though, so I'm super excited. So that's it for this week, you guys. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. I do tons of other reviews and recaps throughout the week, so make sure you check those out, and I will see you guys later. Bye.